Are cryptids getting bolder? Check this clip out. Whether it's humanoids in a cave or forest creatures getting cockier, these clips are claiming cryptids are snatching people, and some have managed to live to tell the tale. Let's get right into it. Two explorers moving through a cave system paused when an unfamiliar sound echoed from deeper inside. Staying low, they positioned their camera toward the darkness ahead. Then, a pale figure emerged into view, moving with slow, deliberate steps. It didn't rush or hide. Instead, it simply stood in the open space, almost aware it was being watched. When it turned its head directly toward them, the moment broke. Both men pulled back into cover, holding their breath. Based on its movement and structure, they later described it as something that didn't match any known species, possibly something entirely unclassified, living far beneath the surface. Mountain walker.
Oh, that's Bigfoot.
A massive dark figure was spotted moving upright along a remote mountainside where no trail or settlement existed. It didn't rush, didn't pause, just crossed the rough terrain with a steady, controlled pace that looked almost deliberate. Its proportions stood out immediately, too large and too structured to match any known animal in that region. The way it carried itself didn't suggest fatigue or urgency, just presence. Those who later saw the footage kept circling back to the same point: the movement itself. Calm, direct, and too consistent for anything expected in such isolated terrain, which is why many refuse to dismiss it as ordinary wildlife.
I can't believe this, it's real.
Forest road crawl. A driver moving through a deserted forest road slammed the brakes after something pale appeared directly in his path. The figure was down on all fours, crossing the road slowly as if it had no concern for traffic or time. Its body looked wrong in proportion, with movements that didn't match anything familiar to local wildlife or even human motion. It didn't react to the headlights, continuing across the road until it reached the opposite side and slipped into the trees. The driver stayed frozen inside the vehicle long after it was gone, trying to make sense of what had just crossed in front of him. Unknown entity. A group of men exploring deep forest terrain came across a hidden cave entrance and followed it further inside. The passage narrowed until they reached a small opening carved deeper into the rock. From that space, a humanoid figure slowly emerged, its expression unsettling enough to stop them in place. They immediately backed out and contacted authorities after the encounter. When officials arrived, the area was sealed off without public explanation, and no official report clarified what had been found. Despite the closure, the footage continued circulating online, with viewers still debating what kind of presence had been captured inside that isolated cave system. Desert apparition. Remote deserts have always attracted strange stories, but one sighting in Portugal pushed that reputation even further. A bizarre figure was filmed crossing a stretch of open sand, immediately drawing attention online. It was unusually tall, pale from head to toe, and seemed completely out of place against the barren landscape. What unsettled viewers most was its shape. Nothing about it resembled a known animal or an ordinary person. It moved steadily across the dunes before fading from view, leaving people wondering how something so unusual ended up in such an isolated place. Cave crawler. An anonymous uploader claimed he experienced something disturbing while walking through woodland near a cave entrance. As he pushed through thick bushes, he suddenly spotted a pale figure crouched ahead in an unnatural position. It wasn't moving, wasn't hiding, and didn't seem concerned about being seen. The stillness made the encounter far more unsettling. For several seconds, the figure remained frozen in place, watching from the darkness near the cave. The man didn't stay to investigate. He turned and escaped. Cave sentinel. Deep in the woods, a man came across a hidden cave and began filming what looked like movement near the entrance. At first, the camera struggled to focus, making the figure difficult to make out. Even so, one detail stood out immediately. It was moving upright on two legs, The strange shape drifted between the trees before lowering itself to the ground near the cave mouth. Then it simply stayed there, completely motionless. Giant. Most alleged cryptid sightings involve frantic movement or blurry footage. This one stood out for the opposite reason. Deep within a North American forest, a hiker recorded a massive dark figure moving through the trees with remarkable confidence. It wasn't sneaking through the woods or reacting to being filmed. Instead, it carried itself with the calm certainty of something completely familiar with its surroundings. Its stride seemed to sit somewhere between human and animal, never fully matching either. Bodycam discovery. Most police bodycam footage captures routine calls. This recording was anything but routine. An officer was moving through dense brush at night, sweeping the area with his flashlight while searching for something never disclosed publicly. Then the beam settled on a shape hidden between the bushes. It was large, dark, and crouched unnaturally low to the ground. The proportions looked wrong, with limbs bent at angles that didn't resemble any known animal. More unsettling was the possibility that it had been watching the officer long before it was discovered. Canal dweller. Reviewing security footage from a narrow canal revealed something nobody expected to find. Emerging from the water was a pale figure with broad shoulders, a bald head, and facial features that looked almost human at first glance. The resemblance quickly faded the longer it remained on screen. There was something unusual about its proportions, as though it only partially matched what it was trying to resemble. Then, as it slipped beneath the surface, the camera captured a brief glimpse of a tail where legs should have been. Fence creature. It was supposed to be a quiet afternoon in a backyard in Asheville, North Carolina, on the Thursday of 26th of 6th. Mario's neighbors warned him, pointing to a jagged hole in the wooden fence. "Don't go near that," they said. They spoke of a cat that liked to hide there, but no one really knew what it was. Curious and a little too confident, Mario decided to take a closer look. Suddenly, the cat wasn't a cat at all. A huge animal, like a skinwalker, came through the fence with terrifying speed. It barreled toward Mario, tackling him to the ground. Mario scrambled across the grass, dodging the massive creature. It looked like Mario was taken away, but the last angle of the video shows him. He was fine, but definitely whiplashed. Pale creature. Back in June of 2015, a person heard strange animal noises coming from his backyard. Upon investigating, he heard something on top of his roof. Then he saw this thing. Not expecting a creepy creature, the man seemed frightened by its appearance. This thing was almost pale and hairless. It had a bizarre body as, well, the lower half was reminiscent of a human, but the tiny, elongated head was peculiar, to say the least. Whatever this creature was, it froze after realizing it was spotted, before eventually running away. Real rake. Long arms and legs, pale skin could only mean one thing. That's a rake. As it was going across the field, it turned its head and gazed into the lens in a horrifying moment. It's like it knows you are watching it. I had my doubts about them, but now I am sure there is something in the woods that we are oblivious to. Although the person who recorded this spooky incident on their trail camera is unknown, the video has managed to intrigue supernatural enthusiasts all around the world. Dweller in a cave. Deep in a remote mountain range, a lone explorer found a narrow cave opening and decided to step inside for a closer look. At the back of the chamber stood a humanoid figure, motionless at first, with large almond-shaped eyes that reflected the dim light. Then it slowly extended unusually long hands toward him, as if testing the space between them. In a moment of hesitation, he reached out and briefly touched its hand. The reaction was instant. He pulled away and ran, shaken, later saying the texture and presence felt completely non-human, like something that shouldn't exist underground at all. Headless runner? In a deserted stretch of open ground, a man recorded something moving fast across the terrain, and it didn't look right from the moment it entered the frame. The figure had no clear head shape, just a body rushing forward as if it was locked onto a destination far beyond sight. Patches of fur covered parts of its upper form, breaking any clear idea of what it might be. It moved with a strange urgency, crossing uneven ground without slowing down. The man kept the camera locked on it until it disappeared behind a rocky slope. Scary screams. Deep inside a narrow cave system, a man carefully made his way through a tight passage when something ahead forced him to stop. A humanoid face emerged from the darkness, fixed directly on him. Its mouth suddenly stretched open in a silent scream-like motion, as if it was trying to communicate something without sound. The space around it stayed completely still, making the moment feel even more disconnected from anything natural. He didn't move closer or stay long enough to understand it. He turned back immediately and left. Mountain giants spotted. A family hiking through rugged terrain in Mexico recorded something that immediately changed the tone of their journey. While scanning a rocky mountainside, they noticed movement near a small cave entrance. Zooming in revealed a humanoid figure slowly emerging and settling at the edge of the opening. It stayed still for long stretches, almost as if observing the valley below. What made the footage unsettling was its scale. Even from a distance, its proportions appeared far larger than a normal human could account for. The sight reignited local talk of old legends, describing giants living within deep mountain caves, rarely seen but never fully dismissed. Cave Watcher. Deep inside a remote mountain cave, a dark figure appeared at the entrance where no natural light fully reached. Only the faintest glow from its face broke through the surrounding shadow, while the rest of its body stayed completely hidden in darkness. It didn't step forward or retreat. It simply stayed there, holding position as if observing everything outside the cave opening. That stillness made the moment more unsettling than movement would have. For several seconds, it remained fixed in place, watching, before the darkness swallowed its outline again, leaving the cave entrance empty and unanswered. But do you have the answers? Let me know in the comments. Stone stack encounter. A group exploring a cave system noticed something that immediately felt out of place. Rocks stacked in a pattern too deliberate to be natural formation. As one man carefully shifted a stone aside, the space behind it revealed a hidden presence. A human-like face emerged slowly from the darkness, eyes fixed directly on the group. It didn't rush out or attack. It just watched for a brief moment, as if confirming it had been seen. Then it withdrew silently back into the shadows behind the stones. Eerie stranger. A villager was walking home along a street rumored to be haunted when he looked up and froze. A woman sat on a rooftop, watching him. There was something immediately wrong about her. The color of her skin, the way her eyes seemed to follow him, and the strange expression on her face. No one in the neighborhood recognized her, and no one could match her description. The sight made him realize that the ghost stories about the street might not be stories at all. Mysterious creature clip. A YouTuber filming inside a cave slowly swept the camera across the dim interior when something subtle caught attention in a dark corner. A pair of glowing eyes reflected back from the shadows, fixed directly on the lens. The sudden reaction from the cameraman caused a quick pullback, breaking the steady shot. The eyes seemed to shift slightly within the darkness, tracking the movement of the camera light without revealing any full form behind them. No other features were visible in the cave space, and the recording ended abruptly. Call for help.
What? Hello?
A man cycling along the edge of a forest noticed a small opening in the ground and stopped to inspect it, assuming it might connect to a cave system below. Using a stick, he carefully tested the depth of the hole when an unexpected sound rose from within. It wasn't wind or animal noise. It carried the rhythm of a voice, faint but structured, almost like it was asking for help.
What? Hello? No.
The moment he heard it clearly, he stepped back without hesitation. He left the area immediately, abandoning his bike behind.
I don't care about my bike.
Tunnel runner. A cave explorer moving through a narrow underground passage recorded something unusual at the far end of the tunnel. A figure suddenly appeared in frame, running deeper into the darkness at a speed that didn't match anything expected in such confined space. Its shape was unclear, but its movement was sharp, direct, and deliberate, quickly disappearing beyond the limits of the camera light. The clip ended almost immediately after the sighting, but that brief moment was enough to spark ongoing debate. With no identifiable animal matching its form or motion, viewers continue to question what actually rushed through that tunnel. Red-eyed watcher. A late-night walk along a mountain trail turned into something far stranger when a man noticed a figure standing ahead in the darkness. At first, he assumed it was another person, but the details quickly changed that impression. The figure stood upright, yet its glowing red eyes and long hair gave it an appearance that felt completely out of place. Instead of turning away, it fixed its attention on him. Then it began walking, matching his movements, while keeping its gaze locked in his direction. The encounter ended without any confrontation, but it was still incredibly creepy. Underground figure. Urban legends have followed old tunnel systems for decades, and one recording brought those stories back into the spotlight. Deep beneath the city, a filmer captured something emerging from the darkness ahead. It began with a head appearing between the shadows, motionless at first, before the rest of the figure gradually came into view. Faint glowing eyes caught what little light reached the tunnel, making the figure stand out against the darkness surrounding it. Unlike many people would have done, the filmer held position and kept recording. The footage spread rapidly online, and people still disagree on what exactly stepped out of those tunnels. Peeking figure.
That's really gnarly, though.
A quiet walk past a cave became unforgettable when a man noticed something unusual in the rock face. A small opening caught his attention, and as he looked closer, he realized something was looking back. A figure appeared to be peering through the hole from inside the cave, remaining completely motionless. The two locked eyes for a moment that felt much longer than it was. Nevada road walker. A routine drive through a quiet stretch of Nevada took a strange turn when a group of friends noticed an unusual figure ahead of them. Curious, they pulled over for a better look. Crossing the road was a pale humanoid unlike anything they had seen before. It was unusually thin, almost skeletal, and moved with a smooth, gliding motion that seemed completely disconnected from the ground beneath it. Nobody wanted to get any closer. They quickly returned to the safety of their vehicle and drove away. Once the footage surfaced online, many connected the sighting to the countless unexplained stories surrounding nearby Area 51. Frozen climber.
Someone climbing up the wall. It's an iceman.
High in the Austrian mountains, a strange recording captured something moving across an icy cliff face. The figure appeared faint and almost transparent, yet its movement was unmistakable. It traveled steadily up the frozen wall with a smoothness that looked completely unnatural against the rough ice. The people filming from below seemed unable to decide whether they were witnessing something extraordinary or simply an unusual visual effect. Either way, the footage spread rapidly. What do you think? Comment down below.
Oh my god.
Forest giant. What began as an ordinary photography trip ended with a picture that continues to fuel debate. A man photographing a woodland landscape later noticed a massive shape standing near the tree line. Hidden among the pines was a towering figure with broad shoulders and a build that appeared far larger than any known animal in the area. When the image was enlarged, the details became even more intriguing. The figure stood completely upright and remained perfectly still, blending into the forest as if it had been observing the scene all along. Christmas visitors.
¿Qué es eso? No puede ser.
Just days before Christmas in 2025, a man returned home late at night and noticed something that made him stay inside his car. Standing on his front porch were two large creatures, both completely upright. One was pressed against the front door, while the other had its hands against a window, seemingly trying to look inside. They were broad-shouldered, dark in color, and moved with an unsettling confidence around the property. Then, without warning, the one at the window turned and sprinted toward the tree line at extraordinary speed. The second followed moments later. But this wasn't the only encounter. The return. The story became even stranger a week later. The same homeowner was keeping a closer watch on his property when another encounter unfolded outside the house. This time, a heavily built creature was seen pressed against a window, peering inside with a level of focus that felt far too deliberate to be ordinary wildlife. It remained there for several seconds, almost as if it was searching for someone. Then it suddenly dropped away from the glass and charged down the street on all fours. The speed was astonishing. Within moments, it vanished into the darkness, convincing the homeowner that whatever appeared on Christmas week had somehow returned. Mysterious blue faces.
Hay que agarrarlo, güey. Es uno chiquito, güey.
A group of friends in Mexico were already unsettled after watching strange lights descend from the night sky and disappear somewhere beyond a remote forest. Curiosity eventually got the better of them, and they headed toward the area where the lights appeared to land. Near the tree line, they spotted a faint blue glow hovering low above the ground. As they focused on it, the shape of a face became visible. Then another figure slowly rose behind it, far taller than the first. Neither figure made a sound. The friends didn't stay for answers. They turned around and ran.
Es esa mamá. Esa mamá. ¿Qué es esa mamá?
Street crawler. Security cameras in China recorded a strange visitor moving through empty streets long after midnight. The figure stayed low to the ground, crossing the pavement with an awkward motion that looked neither like crawling nor walking. At one point, it stopped beside a building and began scratching at the wall before wandering off again without any clear destination. The footage offered few answers. Its appearance seemed to blend human and animal characteristics in a way that felt difficult to categorize. Creepy footage. This is the creepiest video on my list today, and you'll be shocked to see what happens near the end. A strange, deformed creature was seen walking out of an abandoned location and seemed disturbed. The creepy creature had a large head with long black hair falling down on its shoulders. Its skin was also gray in color, like it was deceased and had woken up after thousands of years. This tall, slim creature walked strangely, and then it began to levitate. But before the creature flew away, it looked directly at the camera as if it was looking at us. Witch knocking. A doorbell camera in a quiet village in Indonesia recorded something that didn't sit right. Late at night, a woman slowly stepped into view. Her hair looked uneven, almost tangled, and her face appeared dirty in a way that didn't look natural. Even her nails and the slight curve of her smile felt off, like details that didn't belong together. She stood there for a few seconds, staring directly into the camera without moving. Then, just as slowly, she turned and walked away into the darkness. Mysterious entity. A CCTV camera outside a house captured a strange moment. From the bushes, a figure stepped out with long white hair and wide, dark eyes that seemed to pierce the night. Its nails were unusually long, and the way it knocked on the door felt wrong. The movement wasn't natural. It didn't act like a normal person. Anyone watching could feel the tension building, wondering what it really could be. The cameraman said she looked normal in real life, but on video, she was completely different. A pale face, strange eyes, and unnatural motion made the clip feel otherworldly. Yard humanoid. Late one night, a man and his dog heard unsettling noises coming from their backyard. Checking the area revealed nothing unusual at first, but later, the home security footage showed something startling. A humanoid figure with glowing eyes sprinted across the yard before vanishing into the darkness. The dog froze in place, watching the figure pass, clearly sensing something unnatural. Online viewers are divided. Some believe it could be a forest creature wandering into residential areas, while others think it may have been a Bigfoot sighting near homes. The combination of the figure's sudden appearance and glowing eyes makes this one of the more unnerving backyard sightings captured on camera. Alien caught. A man in his neighborhood was alerted by his dogs barking frantically and strange noises coming from above his house. He immediately checked his home surveillance cameras and was stunned by what he saw. The footage shows a tall, gray humanoid figure walking slowly along the side of the road. Its movements were controlled and purposeful, giving the impression it had a specific task. The man couldn't figure out where it had come from, but the scene suggested it might have been dropped off by a UFO. Hospital creature. A CCTV recording of a hospital in Brazil caught something very unusual in one of its cameras. Everything was normal, and at the 15-second mark, a staff member can be seen leaving the hospital. But right behind him, this creature was caught stalking him from one of the rooms. It walked steadily, as if it was sneaking around, being extra careful not to be spotted by anyone. It was searching for someone in specific, and the footage has intrigued many, but there are some that doubt it's real. Pale figure. A tourist was driving back to his hotel late at night somewhere in Peru when his camera caught something standing on the roadside. It was pale and human-shaped, standing still in the dark. The figure looked similar to what people describe as a skinwalker. The tourist later said that if the creature had chased them, the situation could have ended very differently. Shifting dark shapes. In a small town in Mexico, CCTV cameras recorded something unusual during the night. The footage shows two small, dark figures moving across the ground. Their forms are not clear at all. They appear to shift and change shape as they move. Because there are no sharp details, it is difficult to tell what they were. When something has no clear form, it leaves too much room for imagination, and that is what made this footage so disturbing. Pale goblin. A local man in Colombia noticed something unusual outside his house and began recording. A small, pale figure stood not far from his home. As he focused on it, the shape resembled a strange goblin-like being. Its face was the most disturbing part. After a short time, the creature moved away and disappeared completely. There were no sounds, no clear explanation, and no sign it had ever been there. Limbed road creature. A man shared dashcam footage that quickly gained attention. In the video, a strange creature crosses directly in front of his car. It appeared to have multiple limbs and three long, whip-like tails moving behind it. At first, many people believed the footage was computer-generated, but soon, other videos began appearing online. These clips reportedly showed the same creature in different locations, including parks, empty streets, and even inside a storage room where it seemed to chase someone. If it is staged, why do similar sightings continue to show up in different places? Aerial unknowns. A commercial flight passing over a wide, empty landscape captured something unexpected far below. From high above, several large humanoid forms could be seen moving across the ground in slow, steady motion. Their scale stood out even from the altitude, appearing unusually large against the open terrain. Zooming in didn't bring clarity, only more uncertainty, as their outlines remained indistinct and difficult to define. There were no roads, no structures, nothing else moving nearby. Elf figures. Inside a dim cave system, footage captured a group of small humanoid figures with long ears and stretched noses moving together near the entrance. They didn't appear randomly scattered. They moved as a unit, almost coordinated, as if they were used to sharing that space. A few remained deeper inside, while the rest gathered near the opening, pausing as the camera focused on them. Their proportions and appearance felt closer to old folklore descriptions than anything documented in modern biology. The way they stayed within the cave suggested it wasn't a temporary stop, but somewhere they had adapted to live and move through over time. Bigfoot sighting. A man was hiking a trail through Chugach State Park in Alaska when something bizarre crossed the road ahead of him. It moved on two legs, but it was far too big and wide to be a person. Its entire body was wrapped in thick black fur, and it walked at a slow pace. He followed it into the trees and kept filming. Up close, it stood taller than any man he had ever seen. He never heard it make a sound. It just disappeared deeper into the forest. Convinced that he saw a real Bigfoot, he informed the authorities, and they are still searching the woods. Mysterious forest figure.
Dude, what is that?
Two friends were setting off fireworks in the Shawnee National Forest in Illinois one night, laughing and celebrating, when they heard a chilling scream. They went quiet and followed the sound deeper into the woods. Their flashlight barely reached it, a white figure standing upright. They moved closer, and it turned. Long black hair covered its face entirely as it came straight at them. They ran without looking back. Both of them agreed afterward that what they saw was not an animal but a ghost, as forests are said to be haunted by ghosts.
Go! No! Run! Run!
demonic entity. A man was camping alone near Kisatchie National Forest in Louisiana when he spotted an abandoned house through the trees and went inside to investigate. As he got closer, his flashlight revealed a terrifying figure standing in the darkness. It was short and hunched, with a round, pale head and hollow eyes. Then the figure stepped back behind the wall. Terrified, he ran and never looked back. Back at his tent, he sat awake until sunrise, convinced that whatever lived inside that house might follow him there. Camping gone wrong.
It literally sounded...
Stacy.
A couple was camping in the Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania when they pulled out an Ouija board inside their tent late at night. They had barely started when something tapped hard on the tent. The man unzipped it and swept his flashlight through the trees, but spotted nothing. He sat back down, and the radio switched on by itself, pushing out a strange sound as if answering his questions.
Is there somebody outside? Yeah?
He went outside and followed a dark shape, but could not capture it on camera. They packed the board away, and both of them were convinced they had called something in from the other side.
What the that was that sound again?
Four-armed creature.
Alexis?
A group of friends was sitting around a campfire in the Ouachita National Forest in Arkansas when they realized their friend had been gone too long. They grabbed a flashlight and went looking. They found her crouched against a tree trunk, shaking, unable to speak. Before anyone could reach her, something came out of the dark behind them. It moved on all fours but had two extra limbs jutting from its sides, pale and bare, scrambling across the ground with a speed that made no sense. Its bald head swung toward them as it lunged. Terrified by the creature, they scattered in different directions. Roadside strangers.
Step out of the vehicle immediately.
A police officer was patrolling the stretch of road bordering Ocala National Forest in Florida late one night when a blue SUV parked on the shoulder caught his attention. Through the window, he could make out a shirtless figure sitting inside. He called and ordered them out and told them to get on their knees. They complied without a word, but that particular stretch was said to be haunted by ghosts, and his fellow officers refused to patrol it alone after dark. Standing there with two silent strangers kneeling in his headlights, he began to wonder if what he had pulled over were ghosts disguised as humans, and ran.
On your knees. Oh my gosh, okay.
Terrifying tent figure. A couple set up their camp on the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina when the husband started filming his wife as she sat inside the tent. She was relaxed, with no idea what the camera was picking up. A figure was sitting behind her, bold, motionless, with its mouth wide open, as if it were about to bite her. Terrified, the camera was dropped from his hand, and both of them went missing from that night. Crawling creature. A man was sitting outside his tent in the Sam Houston National Forest in Texas late one night when something moved near his camp. Curious, he went to see with his torch and was left shocked. A pale figure was crawling toward him on all fours, its face tilted upward and covered with long black hair, black hollow eyes fixed on him. Terrified, he ran, leaving everything behind. Later, when he asked the locals, they said it was a witch who lured people at night. Mountain ghosts. A man was driving home through the San Juan Mountains in Colorado after a camping trip when his dashcam picked up something terrifying. The first appeared in the headlights as a hunched dark shape standing directly in the road, too wide across the shoulders to be a person. It turned slightly as the car approached, then was gone. Further up the mountain road, a second figure stood at the roadside, pale and tall, its form barely holding together. Then the third stepped right into the headlights and spread wide. On his way back home, he could not shake the feeling that they were ghosts. Skinwalker. A man pulled over on a remote stretch of road in the Navajo Nation in New Mexico for some fresh air when he noticed movement in the trees beside him. He turned his camera toward it. Something pale was moving through the trees on all fours, crawling fast with long, sharp claws, dragging across the ground. It was coming toward him. The video ended abruptly, and he went missing that day. Authorities who reviewed it said it matched the description of a skinwalker.
Oh,
Alienoid. A man was spending a vacation at his farmyard in rural Tennessee when he checked the previous night's security footage. What he saw made him watch it 3 times. A figure was standing near the edge of the property in the dark. It was thin and tall, with a large domed head, wide-set glowing eyes, and long spindly arms that bent at unnatural angles. It stood there for a while before stepping back into the darkness beyond the fence. He reported it to local authorities, but no one had an explanation for what his camera had captured that night. The Uninvited. A group of friends was camping in the Satpura National Forest in India when they noticed a figure standing in the darkness. It was pale, featureless, and tall, standing with its arms loose at its sides. Then it started walking toward them with an unnatural gait. Each step felt wrong. They warned him not to come close, but it was not afraid of them. Avoiding trouble, they ran and reported it to the local forest authorities the next morning. Officers searched the area and found nothing. Mysterious humanoid. A man was driving through the Angel Falls forest in Venezuela when he saw something move between the trees. Curious, he stopped his car, got out, and started filming. He called out to see who it was, and to his shock, the figure answered, but in a strange voice and an unknown language. Then it stretched low to the ground and began to move toward him, while its body twisted in creepy, unnatural ways. Terrified, he ran back to his car and sped away. When he later posted the video online, many people said the figure might be a skinwalker. Backyard intruder. One Sunday night, a man sat down to review the security footage from his backyard camera in rural Vermont when he saw something that shocked him. A figure emerged from the tree line at the far end of the yard and slowly walked into the open. It was pale and hairless. At first, it was crouched on the ground, but then it stood upright and moved unnaturally, unlike anything he had ever seen. Curious, he searched online and came to believe it was a rake.
Where's the dog?
Mysterious forest woman.
where did you just come from? Took the wrong way. Oh my goodness.
An old couple was hiking through Hocking Hills State Park in Ohio when a woman in pale blue clothing stepped out onto the trail ahead of them. She seemed confused, asking about her sons.
Did you see my other son?
Wanting to know if they had seen them, they answered politely and kept walking. She followed them. Every turn they took, she was behind them, still talking, asking the same questions, trying to discuss their YouTube channel as if she somehow knew about it. Later, they discovered that another hiker had reported something deeply unsettling on that same trail just weeks before, which made them believe that this trail was haunted.
You see her? Look at that face.
Terrifying trail experience.
The weirdness continues. What the hell? And there's a duck here.
A hiker was exploring the Appalachian Trail in Virginia when he began to notice something amiss. Scattered along the path were rocks and flat stones with handwritten messages carved and painted onto them. One stone was shaped like a giant footprint with words scrawled across it. Another had a name on it, someone calling themselves the Wolfman of Helltown. Sealed bags of rotting material sat beside them, covered in more strange writing. A dead bird lay nearby, untouched. That night, inside the trail shelter, he flipped through the logbook where hikers record their stays. The handwriting in one entry matched exactly what he had seen on the bags that day. The notes rambled about government agents, song lyrics, and people leaving trash on trails, none of it making any sense.
Once I came across that guy's writing, it was so weird. You open it up and it's like, that writing looks familiar. The same writing as that guy that's 3 miles away. Ranting, it's like music lyrics and political stuff and, you know, talking about people leaving trash and just weird rants and Bible quotes, and it's just like all over the place.
Then he shone his flashlight inside his tent and found a glass bottle with 3 words written on it. "Watch out for Yeet Mouse, for the dead do walk and talk down." Terrified, he packed his bag and left before sunrise.
What do you know? Same handwriting as the one in the book and that garbage on the trail from that same dude. So it says, watch
out for Yeet Mouse, the do walk and talk. Like, what the hell is going on?
Rake encounter.
There's apparently something evil lurks around in this place.
One night, a man was camping in Monongahela National Forest in West Virginia when he spotted an abandoned building off the trail and went inside. In the attic, his flashlight swept across scattered papers and broken furniture when a dark hand pushed up through the floorboards. He stumbled back. Then something even more strange rose behind it, shapeless and pale. Terrified, he turned to leave. And that was when he saw a terrifying creature on camera, a chalk-white face with hollow black eyes, long grey arms gripping the sill, pulling itself toward the opening. He dropped everything and ran for his life. Later, when he described it to other hikers at the campsite, one of them said it sounded exactly like a rake. Alien abduction. A paranormal investigation team went inside an abandoned house deep inside the Uwharrie National Forest in North Carolina, cameras rolling. Inside, they encountered something terrifying. At first, it lunged toward them and then crouched near the staircase. It was a gray, hairless creature with a wide skull and sunken black eyes. Its skin looked wet and metallic, and its limbs were long and oddly jointed. They ran. It followed them out into the trees. Their cameras were recovered 2 days later in the same spot, and the team was never found. Some investigators who reviewed the footage believed what chased them was an alien. Werewolf encounter. On the 3rd of October, 2022, a group of hunters were camping near the Ozark National Forest in Arkansas when a low, rumbling growl rolled through the trees. They grabbed their cameras and followed it. Through the brush, they spotted a large, dark figure standing upright between the trunks. Then it dropped low into the bushes, and a single amber eye glowed back at them through the leaves, locked right on them. Terrified, they ran back to camp and packed up before dawn. One of them later said the figure had looked human before it went down, so it might be a werewolf. Lizard Man. Once you're done liking this video and subscribing, let me remind you that what you're about to watch is going to be bizarre, and we seriously need to talk about them. A man was camping alone at Congaree National Park in South Carolina when he walked down to fill his water bottle. His flashlight caught something strange walking among the thick bushes that stopped him cold. A figure with its back lined with a hard, jagged ridge running from its neck all the way down its spine. Its limbs were twisted at wrong angles, and its face turned toward him slowly, dark, scaled, and nothing like any animal he had seen before. He backed away without making a sound, and showed this footage to his friends when one of them identified it as a lizard man. Surrounded by alligators. On the 17th of August, 2013, two friends were camping near the Atchafalaya Basin in Louisiana when one of them unzipped the tent for some fresh air just past midnight and was left stunned. Several large alligators were gathered just steps from the entrance, as if they had been waiting for them to step outside. There was no way out through the front. One of them pulled out a knife and slashed through the back wall of the tent, and they crawled out into the dark and ran without stopping until they hit the road. Peculiar perched creature. A man was searching for his dog in the woods behind his campsite near Bankhead National Forest in Alabama when his flashlight caught something mysterious. Something was perched in the branches above him, thin, pale, and completely hairless, with long, bony fingers gripping the bark and dark, bulging eyes catching the light. Its head tilted slowly to one side as it stared down at him, mouth slightly open, body folded in a way that looked deeply wrong. He never found his dog that night, and he went back thinking his dog might be devoured by the creature he saw perched on the tree. Mysterious remains.
We got a hold of the same deputy that was out here before when we found a femur and a lower leg bone that had been sawed in half.
Back in 2025, a man posted a video that spread across the internet within hours. Along with his wife, he was looking for a spot of water while camping in the Sonoran Desert in Arizona. There he found tiny backpacks, clothes, shoes, and bones scattered around the edges, as if something had fed there and left the rest to rot under the open sky. Terrified, he kept filming but could not understand how these remains ended up here. Nobody who watched the video had an explanation. If you have any idea, write it down in the comments section.
There's backpacks. There's little kids' backpacks here.
Don't be too loud.
Desert anomaly.
Lo está arrastrando. Eso no es normal.
On the 14th of March, 2021, a man was driving through the Mojave Desert near 29 Palms in California, looking for a flat spot to set up camp before the sun went down. Through the windshield, he saw a tall, dark creature standing upright over what looked like a freshly hunted prey lying beside it. Its body was lean and muscular, covered in dark gray skin with no fur. Its head was long and narrow, almost beak-like, with sharp ridges running back from its face. Then he hit the horn. The creature snapped its head toward the car, then turned and sprinted back into the desert. Curious, he shared the clip on Twitter, where viewers dismissed it as a hoax.
¿Nos vio? Se está acercando. Dios.
Secret cellar. A nature explorer was making his way through the dense woodland of Aokigahara Forest in Japan when he saw this. A square concrete opening sat flush with the ground, almost completely hidden under moss and overgrown roots. He crouched at the edge and shone his light down. Dark water filled the bottom. He could not understand where it was coming from. Nobody had marked it on any map. He filmed it, stepped back, and kept walking, deciding some things are better left without answers. Red-eyed creature. Two friends were exploring the Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky late one night when a pair of red eyes blinked at them from the darkness ahead. They turned and took a different path, not wanting to find out what it was. Then it appeared again as if it was following them. A dark, fur-covered shape was moving toward them with a faint, unnatural glow surrounding its body, and those same red eyes locked straight onto them. They ran without looking back. Both of them had heard the old Mothman stories from around Kentucky, and they believed it was the same. Bizarre desert creatures. A group of hikers was standing on a ridge above the Valley of Fire in Nevada, filming a crash between two vehicles on the road below. Then something crossed the road between the cars and left them shocked. These creatures sprinted across the open desert highway on four long, thin limbs, moving far too fast for anything that size. Their bodies were dark and lean, with narrow heads and legs that stretched unnaturally long with each stride, like dinosaurs. What do you think they were? Uninvited guests. On the 7th of March, 2023, a man stepped away from his camp in Kruger National Park in South Africa to collect water from a nearby pond. When he returned, his tent was in pieces. He pulled up the security camera footage and watched two lions moving through his camp as they owned it, circling the tents, tearing through the fabric with no hesitation at all. He folded his camp without making a sound and moved to another spot before they came back. Strange forest man.
I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
A man had just set up camp in Epping Forest in England and walked off to gather firewood when he turned back and froze. A stranger was crouched beside his tent, pulling at the fabric with one hand and pouring liquid over it with the other. The man stayed hidden behind a tree and kept filming. Sensing trouble, he rushed toward his car, but its windows were smashed and red letters were sprayed across the door. "Go home." Before he could understand, the man came charging at him through the trees and made him run without even looking back. Mysterious forest creature. A man was exploring the forests outside Banská Bystrica in Slovakia when a sharp crack of breaking wood stopped him mid-step. He turned his camera on and moved slowly toward the sound. Through the trees, a dark shape stood upright between the trunks. It was massive, covered head to toe in thick black fur, and broad enough across the chest that it blocked out everything behind it. It wasn't moving. It was just standing there, unaware of being filmed. Then it growled as if it sensed him. He immediately ran and never went to explore that forest again. Strange humanoid figure. A man was driving alone through a remote dirt road outside Roswell, New Mexico, late at night, when his headlights landed on something standing in the middle of the road ahead. It was pale, hairless, and unnaturally thin, with long limbs and a posture no normal person holds. It stood facing him and raised one arm slowly, pointing to the side of the road as if directing him somewhere. He didn't follow the directions and reversed his car, wondering if it might be a ghost. What do you think? Camp intruder.
แล้วนักท่องเที่ยวกลัวหมดละไปเข้าป่าก่อนนะครับ
The family was camping in the Taman Negara rainforest in Malaysia when the ground began to shake beneath their feet. Before they could understand what was happening, an elephant burst through the tree line and walked straight through their campsite. It pushed through the tent, scattered their gear, and tore the camp apart like it wasn't startled but furious. The family backed away and watched everything they had set up get flattened in seconds. The elephant stood among the wreckage for a moment, as if showing dominance and warning them not to camp here next time. Peculiar forest woman.
Calm down.
A couple was driving through the back roads of Gifford Pinchot National Forest in Washington when a woman walked straight to the driver's window, leaned in close, and stared with wide, unblinking eyes and a grin that didn't match any normal expression. Her hair was wild, her face flushed, and she was talking angrily. Avoiding any trouble, they apologized and drove away. Later, residents told them the woman was known in the area and had a history of mental illness.
Sorry. I told you to calm down.
Forest flyers.
Probably no trespassing signs, or maybe it's something for the wildlife or something.
5 years ago, James Rankin was exploring a thick forest in Long Island, New York, when he found something terrifying. Dozens of missing person flyers were pinned to the trees. He had no idea why they were all in one place. Horrified, James ran away and kept thinking for days that maybe the police put them there as a warning not to visit this place. Sasquatch sighting. On the 28th of December, 2015, a man searching for his missing livestock near a forest in Alaska stopped when he saw the prints. He held his hand over one of them to compare. The handprint completely dwarfed his own, each finger impression deep and wide, pressed into the snow with a weight far beyond any human. He even compared it to the size of his foot, but it was far too large. He became convinced the handprints belonged to Sasquatch, especially since there had been reports of Sasquatch sightings in that forest the year before. Disturbed by a ghost.
Oh, wait, dude. What's that? Was that an earthquake?
A group of friends was camping in a van near Burnt Bridge Creek Trail in Vancouver, Washington, when one of them heard strange footsteps outside late at night. He pressed his face to the window to look, but suddenly someone tapped on the glass. Terrified, he dropped down under the seats and quickly woke the others. When they finally looked outside, nothing was there. He believed it was a ghost trying to scare them, but his friends laughed and refused to believe his story. Red-eyed alien. A man was camping alone in the Ocala National Forest in Florida when something peered through the torn flap of his tent, and he was scared. The face pressing against the opening had dark, leathery skin stretched tight over a wide, flat skull, with one enormous black eye that slowly shifted color, from bright red to dark. He reported it to the authorities the following morning. Officers took his footage and told him to stay quiet about it. He had already uploaded it. The video spread within hours, and viewers identified it as an alien, but no official news ever came out. Chupacabra. One dark night, a man lost his way in a forest in Chile while his friends were waiting for him by the bonfire. He kept his camera and flashlight on when, suddenly, a frightening creature peeked out from behind a tree and stared at him. The creature had sharp teeth, pointy ears and glowing eyes, almost like a twisted version of a coyote. Terrified, the man ran as fast as he could and barely escaped. Later, when he showed the video to his friends, they suggested that the creature might have been a chupacabra. Haunted house. A man living in a farmhouse outside Salem, Massachusetts, had been uneasy for 3. On the 4th night, he installed security cameras throughout the house and set up a thermal sensor in the hallway. That same night, a dragging sound pulled him out of bed, like something heavy scraping across the floorboards. He grabbed his camera and walked out to check, unaware that the thermal camera behind him was picking up a terrifying creature. He watched the footage the next morning and he was shifted to a new place, convinced that his house was haunted by a ghost. Strange tall being. A man and his grandmother were walking home on a dirt road through a forest near a small village in Cappadocia, Turkey, when they saw a strange figure standing ahead. It was tall, pale grey, hairless, and had sunken eyes and very long limbs. The creature stood hunched over, staring at them. His grandmother did not panic. She walked straight toward it with a stick in her hand. The creature slowly backed away and disappeared into the darkness. Later, the man posted the video online, claiming it showed an alien, but viewers dismissed it as a hoax. Open discussion. Four friends were exploring the Ouachita National Forest in Arkansas late one night when their flashlights caught a bright orange private property sign nailed to a tree deep in the woods. Before they could decide whether to turn back, a scream tore through the silence, like someone calling for help. Curious, they followed it. Ahead on the dirt path, a strange woman appeared from the darkness, holding a torch in one hand and an axe in the other. Without warning, she lunged toward them, and they ran, crashing through the dark with her right behind them, until she vanished without leaving a trace. They called the police that night. The officer watched the video, then told them the same woman had been reported in those woods before, and locals believed she was a witch. I hope you enjoyed watching today's video, and if you did, then do like this video and subscribe to my channel. It helps us bring better content for you, and leave suggestions in the comments on what video you want to watch next time. Thank you, and see you soon. Cemetery Ghost. On the 14th of October, 2024, a news channel reporter was standing live inside Elmwood Cemetery in Memphis, Tennessee, covering a pre-dawn segment on local ghost legends. She was holding her microphone, delivering her piece to the camera, when a strange figure was seen behind her. On the left side of the frame, just beyond a large weathered gravestone, a pale upright shape was standing motionless, facing the camera. It was not moving, not reacting, just existing in a spot where nobody had walked. Viewers online identified it as a cemetery ghost, but when they checked again, there was nothing. Reptilian. A man sitting at home in Dallas, Texas, was watching Fox News on a quiet Sunday morning when something on screen made him lean forward. Retired U.S. Navy Vice Admiral Robert Harwood was being interviewed live, bald, broad-shouldered, wearing a tan blazer. The skin on his neck looked strange, deeply ridged, pulling tight with every word he spoke. His eyes were barely blinking. He grabbed his phone and started recording. Curious, he shared the footage on Instagram, where viewers began calling him a reptilian in disguise. Yanked by ghost.
Kalila Enriquez viewed the spooky footage brought to us as evidence of the tales. Now we must warn that some of the footage may be troubling to some viewers.
A local news crew from Beaumont, Texas, had been following up on reports of paranormal disturbances in an old residential neighborhood on the 6th of June, 2011. A young man in a red shirt had agreed to sit down and talk about what he had been experiencing inside his home. Strange sounds, objects moving, a presence he could feel and see. The reporter held the microphone as he began to speak. Then, without warning, the plastic chair he was sitting on was yanked as if something had grabbed it from behind. His mother grabbed his arm and took him aside. Later, she said it was his friend's soul who passed away 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Mysterious hacker. On the evening of the 22nd of November, 1987, residents across Chicago, Illinois were watching their regular television program when their screens went black. What replaced it was something nobody at the station had authorized. A figure appeared, pale-faced, wearing dark, oversized sunglasses, dressed in a brown blazer, jerking and swaying against a spinning sheet of corrugated metal. The video was distorted with heavy scan lines. The figure spoke, but the audio was scrambled and barely intelligible. The intrusion lasted nearly 90 seconds, but the person responsible was never identified, and the case remains unsolved to this day. Grabbed by ghost. Two paranormal journalists were documenting an abandoned property on the outskirts of Salem, Massachusetts, on the night of the 4th of October. They had been moving through the dark interior for over an hour, filming crumbling brick walls and empty rooms with their night vision camera. Everything had been quiet when one of them was walking slowly down a narrow corridor. Camera held steady, when something grabbed him inside the room. The camera spun violently and hit the floor. He scrambled to his feet, grabbed every piece of equipment, and both of them ran. They were certain that a ghost in that building had touched him. Terrifying dark figure. A journalist researching reports of paranormal activity at an abandoned site in Mosul, Iraq, set up a night vision camera inside and left it running. After a while, a small pebble rolled across the floor on its own. Seconds later, a dark, jagged figure edged out from the pitch-black doorway, one glowing eye fixed at the camera, then pulled back into the darkness. Then, even more mysteriously, stones began hitting the walls one after another, each impact kicking up clouds of dust. After watching, he took it as a warning from the ghost and stopped working on paranormal activities. Chudale sighting. Locals in Jaisalmer, Rajasthan, had been avoiding a crumbling abandoned haveli on the outskirts of town for years. A journalist who had been collecting those stories decided to see it for himself one night, camera in hand. He walked into the open courtyard and swept his light across the decayed walls. And that's when he saw her, a pale woman in a long white dress, motionless, standing against a doorway. She was watching in anger, as if giving a warning. The locals called it Chudale, and it had been described exactly that way, as it looked. Dark visitor. A man in Houston, Texas, woke up in the middle of the night after hearing strange sounds coming from another room. He grabbed his torch and went to check, and what his camera caught was enough to stop anyone in their tracks. Standing near the doorway was a tall, dark figure, just peering at him through the darkness. He backed away immediately, locked him in his room, and called 911, but before they could come, the figure was gone. Mysterious abduction. A journalist in Portland, Oregon, had spent months investigating paranormal sightings across the city and had been documenting everything on camera. One night, his bedroom camera caught him jolting awake to a deep guttural growling filling the room. A dark shadow crept across the wall toward him. In a panic, he grabbed a cross from beside the bed and hurled it into the darkness. The camera went blurry. When the footage stabilized, the bed was empty. He was never seen again. Many believe the entity he had been chasing for months had finally appeared to abduct him. Glowing eyes. A man named Marcus Webb was walking through an old, rundown property on Dickerson Pike in Nashville, Tennessee, recording the damage to send his contractor for repairs. He moved from room to room, sweeping the camera across the broken ceiling and debris-covered floors, when his light caught something in the darkness of a doorway. Two small, glowing eyes were staring straight at him. Marcus did not wait another second. He bolted out of the house, and the camera went with him, shaking the whole way violently. He never went back inside, fearing the house was haunted. The sliding door. A paranormal investigation team was called to a residential property on Maple Grove Drive in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, after the family reported repeated unexplained activity inside the house. The team set up their night vision cameras and began walking through the rooms with the homeowner. At one point, as the owner stepped into the hallway, the door beside him slid noticeably on its own, catching everyone off guard. Nobody was near it. One of the investigators tried several times to replicate the movement, pushing and pulling the door to find a logical cause, but could not. So, they became convinced that it might be a ghost.
Did you try to close the door?
Candleman. A paranormal investigation team was exploring a crumbling abandoned building in the old district of Semarang, Central Java, when one of them turned and froze. On top of a broken brick pillar was a half-humanoid figure with a lit candle in his hands. But when they looked again, the figure was gone. The candle was still burning. They moved closer and searched every corner of that room. So, what it could be, decide it yourself. Pale window figure. A team of paranormal investigators was exploring an old abandoned building in Toledo, Spain, late at night, when they noticed something in one of the arched windows above them. A pale figure was standing just inside the glass, staring down at him. The cameraman zoomed in, and it was unmistakably the shape of a person, but the building had been sealed shut for years. They circled the entire building and found no way anyone could have gotten in. Everyone who watched the footage came to the same conclusion. There was no living person in that window. Ghost child. A field reporter for a local morning news show was conducting a routine interview inside a small family-run grocery store in San Antonio, Texas, on the 3rd of March. The woman being interviewed was standing near the counter, speaking calmly, while the crew was focused on getting the shot. Nothing about the room felt unusual, but when the footage was reviewed later, a small dark shape was visible in the background. It looked like a child, slowly moving. The store owner believed it might be the soul of her son who passed away a month ago. Ghost caught live. Vanessa Bolaño, a reporter, was filming a segment inside the Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana, on November 7, 2024, one of the most famously haunted buildings in the American South. She was standing in one of the old guest rooms, surrounded by dark red drapes and antique furniture, speaking directly to the camera. The crew noticed nothing unusual during the segment, but when the footage was reviewed on the monitor, an editor spotted something hovering near the headboard behind her. A dark, wispy column of smoke was slowly rising from the bed, curling upward with no visible source. After watching this formation, they immediately pointed to the ghost, making his presence visible on the camera. Haunted Cafe.
Do you hear me?
For months, paranormal investigators heard reports of a bar in New Orleans' French Quarter where staff were too frightened to enter alone after closing. On September 22nd, they decided to investigate. The bar was empty and silent, with stools neatly lined up and bottles untouched behind the counter. Using night vision and thermal cameras, they searched every corner and called out for any spirit to appear. Nothing happened at first, but later, while reviewing their photos, they found chilling proof. A tall, dark, human-shaped figure standing motionless in a backroom doorway. Since no one else was inside, they believed they had captured a ghost.
Who is that?
Hold on.
The Crack Figure. A freelance journalist in Portland, Oregon, was watching the news of a sudden earth tremor that had split the outer wall of an abandoned apartment building on the south side of the city. He was recording the damage for a local news segment when something in the footage made him stop. Right in the center of the crack running through the white wall, partially hidden in the dark gap, was a shape that had no business being there. A dark, hunched figure with what looked like a face tucked inside the broken wall, staring outward. The rescue workers were moving around, but nobody paid any attention to it, as if it had only appeared on camera. Frozen Al Roker. It was a regular Tuesday morning on the Today Show, broadcast live from Rockefeller Plaza in New York City. Al Roker was standing alongside his co-hosts Savannah Guthrie and Matt Lauer. A crowd was packed behind them, and cameras were rolling. He was mid-sentence when something switched off behind his eyes, mouth slightly open, staring straight into the lens, not blinking, not moving, while everyone around him carried on normally. It lasted just a few seconds before he snapped back. The clip spread fast online. Some called it a medical episode. Others pointed to MK Ultra mind control experiments. But what do you think? Strange apparition. A CNN crew was broadcasting live from inside Neverland Ranch in Los Olivos, California, on the 26th of June, 2009. The place was supposed to be empty, but as the camera drifted from left to right, a dark, shadowy shape was visible at the far end of the corridor. It was moving from left to right. At first, they could not spot anything, but when they reviewed the footage, they were left stunned because it had no visible shape, just a blurry shadow moving as if an invisible force was revealing his presence on camera. Strange reflection.
I have decided that the United States should take military action against Syrian regime targets.
A journalist covering a routine government press conference in Washington, D.C. on the 15th of August, 2016, was reviewing his footage when something on the tape stopped him cold. Barack Obama was standing at a podium and delivering a speech while reporters were busy taking notes. Nothing unusual to the naked eye, but in the large glass window behind the podium, something was visible, a small, distinctly shaped figure pressed against the glass. Its face was painted golden, blue, and silver, with what looked like a rounded head and dark, hollow eyes. The room behind that window had been locked all morning, and the journalist became convinced that it might be a ghost sighting.
We would not put boots on the ground. Instead, our action would be designed to be limited in duration and scope.
Sprinting ghost. A sports journalist was watching a Copa Libertadores football match live on television when the cameraman panned away from the pitch toward the stands between plays. The stadium was only partially filled, rows of empty seats visible on the upper tier. Everything looked normal until something in the crowd caught his eye. A dark figure was sprinting at an impossible speed through the seating rows, weaving between chairs and spectators with no friction, no effort, moving the way no human body actually moves. It covered the distance in under a second. Other spectators nearby did not even react and became sure that it might be a ghost. Screen ghost. A man was watching a movie at home in Knoxville, Tennessee, on a quiet Friday night when something behind the actress on screen made him pause. The scene was set inside a dimly lit stone-walled room, a single bare bulb hanging overhead, the actress turning mid-frame, but in the dark corner just over her shoulder, pressed close to the rough stone wall, was a small, pale shape, the size and outline of a child. It was only visible for a few seconds before the camera cut away. He rewound it 3 times, but it appeared only once. He was convinced that it was a ghost reflection on his screen, as he was sensing a strange presence in his house for 3 days. Auditorium ghost. Nobody expected the convocation rehearsal at Cedar Ridge Middle School in Hillsborough, North Carolina, to turn strange. The students were lined up across the stage in their bright yellow gowns, caps sitting straight on their heads, going through the ceremony step by step while their teacher worked the podium. Then the auditorium door on the left side of the hall swung open on its own. No one was near it, and before anyone could say anything, the graduation cap of one of the boys in line lifted off his head and shot to the ground. He just stood there, stunned. When the clip spread online, viewers dismissed it as a hoax. Ghost live stream.
Some people gotta go, and we gotta bring some people in. I understand what you're saying, though. The next is kind of a different thing.
Chris D was just sitting in his room, chilling on a live stream with 3 of his friends, J-Rob, Junebug, and Leaf, on the night of May 16th, 2023. They were mid-conversation when Chris suddenly flinched, spun around in his chair, and stared at the dark space behind him. He said something had just touched his shoulder. Then J-Rob pulled up the replay right there on stream, and the whole mood shifted. In the footage, you could clearly see Chris react to something making contact with him, but behind his chair, there was nothing. The laughing stopped. Even the friends who had been joking about it went quiet and became sure that he was disturbed by something paranormal.
Bro, what?
Peculiar white figure. A reporter from Jornal Democracia in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, was outside late one night doing a street interview with a local man who claimed he had seen a ghost near his home. The man was mid-sentence, arms crossed, describing what he witnessed, when something moved behind them. A tall, pale white figure drifted slowly across the darkness, just behind both men, and disappeared into the shadows. Both of them kept talking, and neither of them saw it. The camera caught the whole thing, and when the footage went online, viewers said the ghost came back to prove the man right. Giant field walker. A cyclist set up his camera along Croxton Road in Thetford, Norfolk, before heading out for his morning ride. He thought the footage would just be passing traffic. When he got home and played it back, he stopped at one particular frame and leaned in closer. Out in the green field across the road, barely visible through the morning fog, stood a towering dark figure. It was impossibly tall compared to everything around it. Curious, he shared the clip on TikTok, and viewers called it a giant. And honestly, the footage makes it hard to argue. Haunted exercise machine. A journalist was walking through Al Rawabi Park in Sharjah on his way home after a late shift when something made him stop and pull out his phone. The outdoor fitness area beside the path was empty, no one around for as far as he could see. But one of the exercise machines was moving. Its arms swung back and forth at a steady pace, as if someone was sitting on it and pushing through a full workout. He stood there watching for several seconds. The machine kept going. Terrified, he took a different route home that night. Bizarre Peeker. A man visiting the ruins of Pidhertsi Castle in Lviv Oblast, Ukraine, was filming the crumbling facade when his camera drifted across the upper floor windows. Most were dark and still. Then one broken window left him shocked. Behind the rusted iron bars and shattered glass, a dark, shapeless figure was crouched inside, staring straight down at him. He kept the camera on it for a few seconds and kept calling his friend to look at it, but before he could take a look, it was gone. Terrified of a ghost watching them, they ran without even looking back.
Andriana! Andriana!
Mysterious revolving chair. A paranormal investigator exploring an abandoned building in Semarang, Indonesia, had heard the stories about ghosts living in this building. He went in alone with just a flashlight, moving slowly through the dark corridors. Then he stepped into one of the back rooms and stopped. A chair in front of him began rotating on its own, and as it turned, a dark child was sitting on it. The chair kept spinning until he became sure that he had made the ghost angry. He turned and ran for his life. Haunted hotel. Two urban explorers were filming inside an abandoned hotel in Salem, Massachusetts, when one of them spotted something dark near a doorway. Before they could process what they saw, the door to the room in front of them slammed shut on its own. One of them tried the handle, but it was locked solid. Panic set in fast. They turned and ran for the exit, but the main door at the bottom of the stairwell slammed shut with a force that shook the walls. It looked as if they were trapped by ghosts, and both of them were reported missing the following night. Terrifying entity. A man in South Korea was alone at home, casually recording himself working, when something hit him out of nowhere. A stone struck him, and he flinched hard on camera. Before he could make sense of it, long dark strands of hair swept across the lens as if something terrifying was also present in the room. He grabbed the camera and looked around. What he saw stopped him cold. A dark figure standing still in the darkness at the corner, barely visible, just watching him. Terrified, he ran out of his house and spent the night at his friend's house in fear of a ghost. Swaying witch? A resident in Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh, was up late one night when he noticed movement on the veranda of the old building near his house. He grabbed his phone and started recording. What the camera captured was deeply unsettling. A dark figure with long, disheveled hair swaying back and forth on the veranda at this hour of night, slow and rhythmic. He was scared because no one lived in that building. Locals in the area had long believed the place was haunted by a witch, and after watching this, he, too, was convinced. Kuntilanak. A group of friends heading home in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, late at night, when their flashlight caught something mysterious. One of them pointed the camera toward the jungle. There, pressed against a metal pole beside the road, was a pale white face peeking at them. It kept watching them for a while and then slid back. When they checked, the figure vanished. Terrified, they ran home and showed the video to their elders, who said it was a kuntilanak. Ghost response.
Try to ask you some questions. If you can either turn the flashlight on or light up the device with the green light as a yes and nothing for a no.
On the 1st of April, 2011, a group of paranormal investigators visited Dry Creek Cemetery in Texas to conduct a late-night session. At 8:29 in the evening, they placed their torch and paranormal indicator on the ground, switched everything off, and began asking questions out loud into the darkness. Within seconds, the torch lit up on its own. Then it went dark, then lit up again, as if something was directly responding to what they were saying. No one touched it. The investigators were convinced something in that cemetery was listening and answering back the only way it could.
Are you still out with us?
Frightening figure. A journalist named David Harrell drove out to his old abandoned property on Stillwater Road in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to collect some belongings he had left behind. The house had been empty for years. As he moved through the rooms, his camera caught something sitting in the corner of a room. It was a dark, hunched figure draped in black, with a black furrowed face, looking down. He did not go near it. He left everything behind and never returned. Curious, he shared the clip on YouTube, where one of the commenters suggested that it might be a homeless person draped in black cloth to scare him. Hospital ghost.
Bismillah. Bismillah.
A security guard doing night shift at an abandoned hospital in Surabaya, Indonesia, heard a scraping sound coming from somewhere. He grabbed his phone and went to investigate, sweeping his light through the dark corridors when something stopped him cold. One of the old medical trolleys was scraping across the dust-covered floor with no one around it. When he moved forward to see what was causing this disturbance, the trolley moved again. Convinced that a ghost was lurking in the darkness, he quit his job and went straight home. Silhouette. A journalist was recording a late-night segment on the outskirts of Seville, Spain, when his camera operator captured something he completely missed at the moment. As he stood facing the camera and spoke into the microphone, a dark, shapeless apparition drifted silently behind him and vanished into the darkness. Nobody on the crew said a word until they reviewed the footage afterward. When the journalist watched it back, he went pale. There was no person behind him that night. The crew confirmed it. Whatever passed behind him on camera was never explained. Bizarre hand.
被害者の家の近くのコンビニエンスストアで偶然あり、いわゆるナンパのような形で声をかけて1時間ほどドライブまたは
On the 10th of April, 2011, a man was watching the news on TV when he captured something strange. A reporter was delivering a live broadcast outside Mishima Police Station in Shizuoka, Japan, when an elongated hand reached out from behind him as if something lurking inside was trying to reveal its true self on camera. It was too twisted to belong to any person standing there. Out of curiosity, he shared the clip on TikTok, where one of the commenters suggested that the news reporter might be a reptilian. Dark entity. For days, a man had felt an unsettling presence inside his house, as if unseen eyes were following his every move. He set up a camera one night and waited in silence. Time passed, and just as doubt began to creep in, something stirred in the darkest corner of the room. His heart pounded. Terrified yet curious, he stepped closer to investigate, but found nothing there. In that moment, he became convinced that whatever shared the house with him was not human. Market ghost. A security guard doing his nightly rounds at Peta Market in Colombo, Sri Lanka, was left stunned when he captured a terrifying entity on camera. When a reporter came to interview him on site, the guard pulled out his phone and showed the footage he had recorded. There, in the aisle, a dark figure stood motionless, staring straight at him. The guard said that by the time he reached that spot, nothing was there. His fellow guards had also warned him about a witch said to haunt the place at night, but he did not believe them until he saw it for himself. Haunted toy. A journalist exploring an abandoned factory in Bandung, Indonesia, stumbled upon something that stopped him cold. Down a dark passage, a small brown figure sat on the ground. From a distance, it looked like a living animal with a long neck, seeming to move slightly as he shone his light toward it. But when he finally reached it, the neck fell to the ground, revealing that it was only a dirty stuffed toy lying in the rubble. Terrified, he ran out of the factory, believing the toy might be haunted. Ghost Girl. A journalist doing a late-night report near the Old Karat Bivak Cemetery in Jakarta, Indonesia, caught something on camera that made his skin crawl. While walking across the cemetery, a figure in white with long black hair appeared from nowhere and walked slowly toward the tombstones. It moved without any sound, without any rush, as if it belonged there. By the time he rushed toward it, it appeared to be standing near the graves, and after noticing a camera, it began to run again, and this time it was lost in the tombstones. Open discussion. Now it's time for today's most terrifying clip. In March 2024, two friends had long heard about Borton Villa, located in Redlands, California, near Brookside Avenue, a place said to be haunted, so they decided to explore it one night. As they went inside with their flashlights on, they encountered a tall, old figure with a weathered, pale face and sunken eyes. Spooked, they rushed out of the house screaming and went straight to their car without looking back. On the way home, they could not shake the feeling that a demon had been lurking inside the house, and they thanked God they had escaped before something bad happened. Alright folks, hope you enjoyed it. But if you want more of the weird side of the world, then subscribe to see what we upload tomorrow, because this is the wow you've been missing in your life. Thank you so much for watching.